Hello, welcome to that Millwall podcast. Today we have another episode of Who Are You, where we get to meet the fans who listen to the show, who support us of the club that we might not necessarily get to meet in everyday life. Today I'm joined by Chris. Chris, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Very well. I know, as we were just talking about it before the show started, we both were at Reading yesterday, so we've come off the back of a 1-0 win and a big 3 points. So that's a good way to start. It was a good game yesterday, wasn't it?
It was not the best performance, but a good result.
Yeah, I think good game in the sense of I think defensively very good. I think perhaps going forward we could improve, but you come away with 3 points, and that's good enough in my
That's the
book.
main thing, yeah.
But this isn't about yesterday. This isn't about the club. It's about you, Chris. So if I can just start with, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Chris. I'm 63, 64 next month. Apart from Millwall, my other passion is American football, Detroit Lions. I'm also into fishing, mainly carp fishing, and I like my motorbikes. I want a motorbike.
Excellent. So and your American football team, did I hear the Lions? Is that right?
Detroit Lions, yeah.
Yeah. So you stuck with the theme.
I've got a Millwall tattoo there, and I've got a Detroit Lions tattoo there.
Excellent. So flying the Lions badge on both sides of the water.
Yeah.
Chris, so how did you become Millwall? What was it?
I used to live in New Cross, and my old man was a Millwall fan, and he took me to the old den when I was 5, which was back in '64. That's when I got the bug.
It's funny, really, because a lot of people tend to say, myself included, because my dad does. It tends to be a generational thing that dads bring their kids and so forth and so forth. So it tends to be the way. Do you remember your first game? Do you have any memories of it?
Bits and pieces. Do you want to go through that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
He took me to a game. I'm pretty sure it was Tranmere Rovers.
Okay.
We won 1-0. I remember not liking it at first because it was loud, a lot of people. I was only 5, and I weren't too sure about it. But we went up the halfway line. He sat me on the stanchion on the terracing, and there was this old geezer next to me in a big bag of sweets, and he kept giving me sweets all through the game, which is a bit dodgy, but it weren't And that's when I got, this is all right. I like it here. And by the end of the game, I was hooked. I wanted to come back.
It also helps as well. You say that we won. When you win the game you first go to, when you win, you tend to think, "Oh, I want to feel this again," especially maybe the rush of the goal or the memories.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I can't remember the goal. I just remember the noise and everyone jumping up and down. I can't remember the team that played. I know Alex Stepney was in goal. I know Cripps was at the back, but other than that, I can't remember who was playing.
And obviously at that time, as a youngster going to the old den, where did you? I know you touched on where you were that day. Did you stay in the same seats during your time at the old den? Did you move about?
Well, no, because he never took me again. And about 3 or 4 months after that, we moved to the other side of London. We moved to Ealing. I didn't get back to Millwall until I was 14.
Right. Okay.
Because my mum wouldn't let me travel across London when I was 12. I went to go to Millwall when I was 12. When I started secondary school, 11, 12, she wouldn't let me go because it was on my own. Because where I was living, and the school I went to, I didn't know any other Millwall fans. I didn't come across any other Millwall fans at all. So It wasn't until I was 14 that I managed to blag it to go to Millwall. And that's when I started going regular.
And at that point, where did you sit in the ground? Where was you based or stand?
Mostly at the halfway line.
Right. Okay.
Occasionally I go to Ilderton Roads or CBL, but mainly it was halfway line.
And what are your memories of the old ground? Obviously, it's a lot different to today.
Yeah, I've got fond memories of the place. I was sad to see it go when it left, but looking back, it was a bit of a shithole. But it was our shithole when we defended to the death. You know what I mean? But we had to move on. We couldn't really stay there. I mean, nowadays you haven't got to worry about having holes in your trainers when you go for a piss, which you did back in then because it was terrible.
I mean, unfortunately, I mean, I was born in '91, so my first game was at the. Obviously, I wasn't taken to the old den before we moved, so I never got to go. But I think most people tend to say what it was. It wasn't much in the sense of the fancy stadiums and the big, your Old Trafford or whatever. But it was home, and it was an intimidating place. So unfortunately, I never got to go. But I would imagine, obviously, as you say, we possibly had to go in the end. Become a little bit more modern and upgrade the facilities. The new ground, I don't like it when it's referred to as the new den. We've been there for 30 years. It's the den. What do you make of it? What do you make of the ground as it is now?
As it is now, it's all right. It could do a bit of a touch up, lick of paint, and a bit of improvement. But I mean, when you go around the country and see other clubs and their grounds, a lot of them are a lot better than ours. But it's not that bad.
And where do you sit? Where do you sit in the new ground?
This season I've got a season ticket in Block 18 in the Dockers.
Right.
Next season I'll be in Block 9, season ticket CBL.
I'm in Block 10 myself. My season ticket's in Block 10. I've been up there for a while. I mean, with the den, do you think they've been able to still capture some of the atmosphere from the old ground? Is it completely different in that sense?
Yeah, it is completely different. Yeah, it's nowhere near as intimidating. It's not as loud. I would imagine away fans and away teams don't get as scared as they did at the old den. I mean, the old den could be a terrifying place. If I was an away fan, I wouldn't want to go there.
Do you think that's because perhaps the sort of a sign of the times back when the old den, we were playing there in the 70s and the 80s, that kind of intimidating that atmosphere has now changed. Football's changed since then.
Oh, football's changed a lot since then. It's a lot more commercial than it used to be. The hooligan element hasn't gone away, but it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Mm-hmm. When I used to go away, you was always looking over your shoulder. You was always expecting trouble. If you didn't get into a fight away from home, you had a bad day. But now I go away from home and I hardly ever see any trouble at all. Hardly ever.
And just obviously finally on that subject, do you think that's a very difficult question, I understand, but with the old ground, do you think had obviously football has moved on now, do you think that the old ground would have still been as intimidating with the changes in football? Do you think that Millwall fans would have sort of succumbed to a little bit more of modern football?
I don't think so. It would still be intimidating. Just the nature of the place and the reputation it had. I know, looking back, I think the modern fans now probably wouldn't go.
No, I think that's right.
Because all the facilities you've got now, the new grounds, and it's more attractive to go to football now. I don't think many of the younger fans now would go to the old den. It would just be not nice.
I think you're possibly right there. I think there's a lot of supporters, perhaps, even around my age, perhaps that sort of have never known anything else. They've only ever known the den as it is today. And I think perhaps it possibly would be a little bit of a culture shock to perhaps experience the old den. Yeah. If that was possible, unfortunately, I don't think maybe sort of some kind of virtual reality, but it's not the same. Bringing it on to players. So you've been supporting the club for a long time, so I would imagine that there might be a few candidates for your favourite Millwall player of all time, or favourite or best.
There's a lot to choose from. I could say Kitchener, Cripps, although I didn't really remember too much about him. Favourite player. I think the best player, I would have to say Sheringham.
Right.
I think him and Cascarino together were the best striking partnership I've ever seen at the den. and especially when they're up against in '88 when we got promoted, they're up against the best players in the league, and they was awesome. Favourite player, I'll probably have to say Harris.
Sorry, what was that?
Harris.
Neil Harris, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's quite interesting when you speak to perhaps an older supporter. The players, they tend to, the same names come up, but Teddy Sheringham is obviously one that is high up there on everybody's list, and then you come to a younger audience, and most people go with Neil Harris. So it's interesting that you've kind of gone with both. I guess, you know, both, or the two leading goal scorers for the club. Between the two, do you think as a pair they would have worked?
I don't know. Possibly. It's a difficult question to answer. I'm not sure. It's a case of try it and see. They might have done, they might not. I don't know.
It's interesting because I think lots of people would, if you were to put sort of a fantasy Millwall team together, they would be the two strikers that most people would name. But I'd always wondered, obviously not seeing Teddy play for Millwall, but for other clubs, whether it would have worked. But I'm not so sure myself. I think they were different. They were different players, both obviously had goal scoring attributes, but slightly different in their approach. Moving on to managers. Again, you've possibly seen a fair few managers in your time supporting the club. Favourite manager?
Yeah, we've had some shit down here, haven't we?
We have.
I think there's a two sides between Doherty and Jackett. They're the two that spring to mind. I mean, Doherty got us up in '88, but I've got a soft spot for Jackett. I like Jackett. I like Kenny Jackett. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Doherty because he got us up in '88, but Jackett's very close second.
Okay, and it's interesting. Obviously, you've gone with the manager that got us promoted to the top flight. Should Gary Rowett achieve that feat, would that put him higher up on your list and perhaps other fans' lists?
At this minute, no, he wouldn't. But I would imagine in 10 years' time, fans would be looking back and saying, yeah, he was the best manager we've ever had. But at the moment, he's work in progress. So it's one of those, you just wait and see. I don't know. Mm-hmm. If he gets us up, he gets us up. But I don't think he will.
Well, I mean, time will tell. Time will tell. We'll come back to that. We will come back to that in a while. Again, this is an interesting question that I always like asking it, and I when I answer this myself, it's quite difficult because any Millwall player that puts on the shirt, you support, or you try to support them. You want them to do well, but we've had a few down the years that have been, shall we say, quite poor. Who would you say in your time possibly the worst player you've seen in a Millwall shirt?
I don't know. I tend to remember the better players and forget the bad ones.
Of course.
In recent times, I'd have to say, I don't know. Jordan Archer would be up there recently.
Okay.
He was horrendous. I remember at Sunderland we drew to all, and
yeah, I know what you're going to say.
You could have hung a bit of string from the crossbar. It would have done a better job than he did. Going back a bit further, I think the two Russians were also atrocious. I can't remember their names, Igor and Ivan. I ain't got a clue what their names were, but they were really bad as well.
I think just touching on that, Archer at Sunderland, I was there that day as well, and I know that was a real bad. We could have come away with 3 points there. We should have come away with 3 points there.
Well, their keeper weren't much better. Let's be honest. He wasn't.
Well. He wasn't. I mean, I think there was a mistake for our first and a mistake for both of their goals. I think obviously it finished 2-2, and the two Russians again. I think a lot of my dad will probably vouch for that. That there was a lot of hype when they were brought in, a lot of excitement, and today you don't know. Most younger supporters don't know who they are because they didn't do anything.
I
Really?
can't remember the names, but
No.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
And
Jordan Archer. I mean, I remember two things about him. Once he did that save in at Wembley against, was it Barnsley or Bradford? One of the two. I
Bradford.
can't remember.
It was Bradford.
Bradford.
It was, yeah.
He done that save that kept us in the game. And I remember that back pass when he headed that over the bar. Do you remember that one?
Mm.
Have you seen that?
Jake Cooper
Yeah.
knocked it back. And
I've watched that about 100 times. That's brilliant. But other than that, it was bollocks.
It's interesting you say that, because that, I remember being at the ground for that, the Archer, the header, and at first you kind of thinking, what is he doing? But
Yeah,
it's the rules, isn't it? It's the rules.
Yeah,
He
back
couldn't
pass.
use his hands. So
No.
some would say genius, but I would imagine others would just look at it and you just sort of despair. Something. Even when you watch it now, you just think, what was he thinking? But it kept the ball out of the net, so I guess he did his job. Moving on to opposition. Again, lots of players that have come to the Den, both the old ground and the current one. I'm going to slightly change what I usually would ask you and say about the worst player you've seen play against us. I will still ask that, but also the best player that's played against us.
The worst player and the best player.
Mm-hmm.
I think that probably, if you go back over his career, I would have to say Ronaldo in the cup final.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it gets much better than that. Even though he wasn't that good and famous back then, but what he's gone on to do, I'd have to say him. Worst player? No, I don't know. I think the funniest one was the West Ham game.
Christian Daly?
He scored an own goal for him. No, who scored the own goal for him when we beat him 3-0? 3-2. He got voted third in the player of the Millwall player.
Yeah, Christian Daly. It was who got voted. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because he went to Charlton as well, and he scored an own goal for them against us as well.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I'll go for him.
It's funny. That was when I did this. That was the answer that I gave, because every time you'd see Christian Daly in the opposition team, you knew he was going to have a shocker. You just knew he was an own goal in him, a red card, or a dodgy back pass. And as I say, the fans had a little bit of fun with voting for him for player of the season, which was a little tends to be a little bit of humour that I think only Millwall supporters really have. This one might be a bit of a tricky question for you. Not necessarily your favourite, but your most memorable game watching Millwall, whether you were there or on TV or whatever.
I'll go with the ones that I was there, because with the experience, it's more of an experience.
Of course.
Well, the Mother's Day Massacre was good.
The
West Ham game that we just talked about, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Chelsea away, when we beat them in the cup, when who was it? Well, I forgot we saved the penalty now. We saved the penalty and we beat them at Stamford Bridge. That was memorable. Sunderland away at Old Trafford in the semi-final. That was memorable. Many others. Luton away in the 80s. That was memorable.
That was memorable for different reasons, though, wasn't
it? For the wrong reasons, allegedly, yeah. But that was an experience. And the two playoff finals that we won, Swindon and Bradford.
And if I was to sort of push you perhaps for your favourite moment, so perhaps from one of those games or from another game, but I would imagine the games you've mentioned there are iconic games for most Millwall supporters. Your best moment following the club?
Probably Tim Cahill's goal against Sunderland. Yeah, that would be one of them.
I think I think it's more so for a lot of fans that was our final, really. A lot of people seem to say that we wasn't going to possibly wasn't going to go to Cardiff and beat Manchester United, but the semi-final, the moment Tim obviously picked the ball up and sort of rifled it into the back of the net, I think you struggle to find any other moment. Even moving forward, it's going to be quite difficult for a goal to top that, I think. I would assume, based on the fact that you've been to old and the current, that there's probably been a few funny stories, funny moments that you've come across in your time. Any particular sort of funny stories that you've got since while following the club?
There was one. Well, it's not exactly to do with the club. Well, to do with the club, not the ground. But I took some mates from work to Millwall who'd never been before. They wanted to go, and they was pretty nervous. So I took them to. I can't remember who was playing, but I took them to a pub called the Atom Arms in New Cross Road. And I told them before we went in there, behave yourself, watch your back, because it's a bit of a dodgy pub, or else you get slung out, making them a bit nervous. Got in there, bought our drinks, went and sat down at the table, and talking bollocks. And the governor come over, because he knew me, because I played in their dart team, and he put a cardboard box on the table. And he said, "Can you blow them up?" And it was full of balloons. I said, "You're having a laugh, aren't you?" He said, "No, we've got a kids' party upstairs. Can you crack on with this?" So all five of us are blowing these balloons up in this pub. Everyone's taking the piss out of us. And one of them, my mate, is a Chelsea fan. He said, "Oh, this is a rock hard pub. I'm proper shitting myself here." Like, I thought, "Yeah, what, mate? Yeah, don't worry about it." I got some stick for that.
I can imagine. I mean, it's not your typical Millwall pub where you've got five blokes sitting in the corner blowing up balloons.
No, we're all sitting there blowing up balloons for this party up there.
Did they enjoy the game though? Did they enjoy it?
Yeah. There was another incident at that game. We was in block 19, and there was. I wish I knew who we were playing, but the away end top end was full up, so it must have been a big team. But it was a geezer in a red jacket in the away end, right in the corner, giving it the big one all through the first half. He wouldn't stop, kept going on and on and on. Eventually, he got slung out. The stewards went up and slung him out. About 5 minutes into the second half, he's turned up in block 19, and he's gone down and stood by the front. And he ain't said nothing. He just, that's him from over there, isn't it? How did he get in here? A few of the other fans clocked him, gone over, and he took a couple of shots, and the stewards come back up and lobbed him out again. But I'm thinking, how did he get in? And why would he want to come in here after giving it the big one over there? He's come in here. What was he thinking of?
Yeah, that's not sensible, is it? Especially,
no.
I think, especially at football grounds, I think if you do sort of start giving it, and you're recognisable, you're on a bit of eyes into nothing, really, because as we know, you don't sort of pull the lion's tail and expect to get away with it. And I wouldn't be. I personally wouldn't go into a home end. I've never done it.
No, I don't know why he did. I don't get him.
Bringing it to today, we've obviously currently sat in 6th spot in the league. In our current squad, who's your favourite player? And again, who do you think our best player is? I think I know who you might answer that with, but
well, the three that stand out as my favourites is Danny Mack, Ian Fleming, and Billy Mitchell. They're the three standouts for me. Best player, I'd have to say Ian Fleming.
It's hard to.
I want to say Billy Mitchell, but I'd have to say Ian Fleming.
It's hard to look past Fleming, isn't it? Because of the kind of contribution that he's had in first season in English football. He's a wonderful player. I think he's going to go on to the Premier League, whether that be with us or without us. I think he's destined for bigger things. And it's interesting where you say with Billy Mitchell. I think in years to come, absolutely, providing he stays, which I think good chance of him, building a bit of a legacy at Millwall. I think he typifies what it means to play for the club, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's he's our best player. I mean, I'm impressed with Bradshaw as well. I didn't rate him when he came here. He had a few seasons. He was injured a lot, and I didn't really rate him. But this season he's kicked on and he's done really well.
I think the first season Bradshaw joined us, we went to Norwich. We lost. I think we lost 4-3 at Norwich. They scored 2 very late goals, and Bradshaw wasn't in the squad. And there was a lot of grumbling in the crowd, myself included. Why is he not? We've just bought him. He was over £1 million striker. What's going on? And I think he'd done a cruciate, and he was out for a long time. And I think from there, the comparison from there to today, as you say, he's been very impressive this season, and hopefully long may it continue. Although he should have done better yesterday with his chance, but that's a.
Well, he should have passed it to Fleming on the left, on the right.
Yeah, he should.
Pass.
It was the wrong pass, but I think had that have been half an hour earlier and Bradshaw hadn't have run for 90 minutes, I think Bradshaw takes it down and scores. But you're right. If Burke had played it to Fleming, who probably was in a better position, it's 2-0 and game over. On the back of yesterday, obviously both of us were at Reading, an away day. Not perhaps the best away day. I think there's a lot of fans that, I don't think Reading's one that most people tend to look forward to. What would you say is your best away day, and perhaps favourite ground to visit?
Best away day this season would be Preston.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. The result, and it was a nice ground, and there was no trouble. Everyone was friendly, and it was a nice day out. Best away day,
or best away day in general that you can. It doesn't have to be fairly recent. It doesn't have to be this season.
Do the cup finals count?
Yeah. Any it can be.
I'll have to say Swindon. Yeah, I'll say Swindon in the playoff final. That was the best one for me.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because that was the first one I went to Wembley and see us win a game.
Of course, yeah. That I think it's interesting because whilst that it was the first one, and obviously Kenny Jackett took us up, and that was a very, very good day. I think there's a lot of supporters that tend to prefer the Bradford game because Harris was the manager. I think, but you're right. The fact of the matter is, it was the first time we'd been to sort of the home of football, or I know the cup final was at Millennium Stadium, but the first time we'd won at the home of football, it was very special. And it was a special player that scored as well.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Wigan game in '99 and we lost that. I went to the Scunthorpe game and we lost that.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see us win at Wembley.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it special for me.
And moving on to opponents, whether that be for personal reasons, whether they be, the fact that the rivalry with them, who would you say is your most disliked opponent? To start with, just one.
What, team or player?
Both. Go both.
Most disliked team. God, I could make a list. I could be here for hours.
I'll tell you what. I'll make that a little bit easier for you.
No, I'm going to say Birmingham.
Okay.
I dislike Birmingham intensely. I dislike Birmingham City.
Any particular reason?
I just don't like them.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that they beat us in the playoff semi-final the year we probably should have been promoted? Is that part of the reason?
Might have a little bit to do with it,
yeah. I can understand
that. Most disliked player. Anyone who scores against us, I immediately hate them.
For me, the disliked player, instantly Lee Hughes. Instantly Lee Hughes from years gone by. The celebration his celebration was so aggravating, and he always scored against us. So that was always my one.
Was he the bloke that scored a hat-trick against us?
He did.
Home.
It was the day that Jay Simpson was sent off, where Jay Simpson, it was against Oldham. Jay Simpson scored, went over to the crowd and got a second booking.
He was giving it the big one to us when he scored, wasn't he?
Yeah, all 3 times he did like a dancing celebration. Yeah, no, he's always one that's up there for for me.
He
In
got
terms,
dragged off, didn't he? He got subbed
yeah,
at the last, for his own safety, wasn't it?
oh, absolutely, because someone would have been on the pitch. It's a bit like
Yeah.
it was getting towards the sort of how it was with Holloway. Dare I say his name? I think where he had to be hidden and taken away because you don't come to the Den. You got to be. He scored a hat trick, fair enough, but you've got to be real brave to come to our place and give it to the supporters. So, but they always run off. That's the thing. They always run off. They never stay to the end.
Well, I remember that. It might have been before your time. We was playing Brentford, and I think it was Andy Roberts.
Right.
He played for us, and he went to Brentford, and he scored again. I don't know if he scored, but he celebrated. Went to the old Den, and a fan ran on and gave him a smack in the mouth, which we all cheered.
Yeah.
And I remember Stan Bowles, he was on the sub bench and he was warming up along the seats, and some old bloke attacked him with his walking sticks.
But that was Millwall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was Millwall. Not that you wouldn't condone anyone running on the pitch now and sort of punching one of the opposition. I dread to think what
it is.
Well, we dread to think what
I know what you mean.
Now,
I know.
Back then, I guess that was no one dared do anything about it because it'd be their turn to get it next. In terms of rivalry, obviously the club, we do have a few, shall we say, bigger rivals than others. In your opinion, top 3 rivals?
West Ham, Crystal Palace, Leeds.
Pretty standard answers there. I think.
I should say Charlton, but I don't really dislike Charlton. I just feel sorry for them.
I think that's a fair comment. I think they are they seem to think that they're not, or something that they're not, really, don't they? That they're from the.
Well, we always beat them, so
and that as well. Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a while. I think the thing with West Ham as well. I think West Ham are obviously West Ham. That is the rivalry, but unfortunately, we don't get to play them as much as we would like. No. I think we're close. We're very, very close to it, one way or another. And I think for me, I've always found that the rivalry, Charlton and Leeds, because we played them more. We've played them so many times in my lifetime over the last sort of 30 years that you tend to have a little bit more towards them. But I think the West Ham game comes around and that's it. If we're ever drawn against them in the cup or in the same league as them, that's the fixtures that the supporters are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, West Ham, I don't hate them as much as I should do, probably. I mean, I've got some West Ham mates. I used to go out with a bird that supported West Ham. But yeah, I like to see them go down. I always like to see them lose. I mean, over the course of the season, I support with 19 Premier League teams. Whoever's playing West Ham, I'm a big fan for one day.
Even Palace? Big fan?
Even Palace, yeah. For one day. I'll give them for one day.
You can have the home leg and the away leg, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
This is interesting. If you could change anything about the club, would you? And what would it be?
One of them is a personal issue with me and the club, which probably won't be of any interest to anyone else. One of the niggles this season is, I don't know if you realise, but they took all the front seats out of Block 18 and Block 19.
Mm-hmm.
They removed all the seats. Because when I got my season ticket, I wanted the front row, and I got it. And then I got a phone call saying you can't have that because they were taking all the seats out under police. He said under police advice. So I'd have the seat back from that. But I didn't get why they took all the seats out. What was the point? Would they think lobbing missiles at the away fans? You can do that from the second row. I mean, what's the difference? So I didn't get that. I mean, put the seats back, for God's sake. The other one is parking. Because I take my bike to most football games, home and away. They won't let me park my bike in the car park. Right. Which is, I think, is pretty poor, because whenever I go to away games, they always let me park in the car park. They're always really accommodating. I could rattle off a load of teams: Stoke, Sheffield United, Preston, Reading, a load of teams let me park in the car park, but Millwall won't. And I don't see why they can't put a small motorcycle bay in somewhere so people can bring their motorbikes in. That's my personal gripe, which is just me.
Well, it's relevant to you. I mean, obviously, I think knowing a little bit about the parking situation, could you not, would they not allow you to? I know you can have a permit for a car. But could you not take one of those spaces yourself? Could you not? Is that not an option, or they just outright said no?
At the last home, I don't know how long the time frame is, but at the last home game, I asked about a car parking space, and he told me to email commercial. He gave me a name of the person to email, so I emailed them. Can I buy a parking space for next season? But I want it for a motorbike, not a car. And as of yet, I haven't heard back, so I don't know.
I know there's a bit of a list. I think based on this was a while ago, but I inquired a while ago, and I think there's a lot of people that want to do it, because parking around the ground, it's London, isn't it? It's not easy to find car parking, or in your case for your bike. Moving on to a couple of quirky questions, a couple of things that I quite enjoy asking. Favorite shirt, Millwall shirt. Do you have one?
I've got a few. I don't wear them to football, but the two I used to wear most of all was South London Press one, and the Captain Morgan away shirt,
the green and white, white one. Yeah, so that was a lovely shirt.
They're probably two of my best favourite shirts. Yeah.
That was the I think even the Captain Morgan, the home one. I think that year those kits were really nice. I was only young. I've still got my the away kit from that year. It's obviously tiny, but that was a lovely shirt. It would be quite nice if they do something similar again with those colours. I think that would make quite a nice away, or even a third kit if they wanted to go down that route. What do you make of us on the subject of shirts? Obviously, the blue. The shade of blue, it's obviously changed over different kits, different decades. Are you happy with the kits at the moment?
They call it Dundee blue, don't they?
Yeah.
That's I like that shirt. I like that colour. I'd rather that than go back to the lighter blue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're not Chelsea, so keep that. Don't change it.
No. And before I come on to just a couple of other questions that I'm going to sort of throw a bit of a curveball with, but any Millwall memorabilia that you own? Anything special?
I've got a bit. I've got a signed picture of Terry Earlock. I've got. Where are we? Oh, I've got this. This is Paul Robinson's training top, and it's been signed by Liam Trotter, Jimmy Abdul, and Paul Robinson. I don't know if you can see that.
Excellent.
Probably don't know if you can see that. Can you get that? Yeah.
Just a bit, yeah.
They was all signed when they was at AFC Wimbledon. What else? I've got that team photo from 15-16 season. I don't know about that, because that I used to work for a van company that hired out vans in Milton Keynes, and we got a van from London come up, and I had to drive it around the yard to valet it and get it serviced for another customer, and that was in the back of behind the seat. I drove it around, I pulled it out, and that was in the van. So I put that in the locker room. That's coming home with me. Went into the office and said who had the van before he come up here. They'd done a check on the computer, and it's come up Millwall SC, and they'd hired that van for 2 days.
Oh, so, wow!
And that was in the van. And when they had the van was exactly the same time as Neil Harris left Millwall. Right. So I don't know what they did the van for. Maybe that was in his office. I don't know. Who knows? But
so you've got potentially a piece of Neil Harris's memorabilia up
probably,
on your wall.
I don't know. It was up there somewhere, but yeah.
That's excellent.
Neil, mate, if you
Go on, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Neil, if you're watching, you're not getting it back, mate. You can jog on.
Get him to sign it. Get him to sign it. You touched on earlier. This is obviously away from the standard interview, and obviously at the moment, the club sit sixth. I think as we're recording this, Norwich are playing Sunderland. I don't know what the score is, so we may drop out of the top six.
They kick off at 12:30. Is it 12:30?
I think it was no, it's 12 o'clock. So no, they haven't kicked off yet. But by the time obviously this goes out, we may have dropped back out of the top six. We may still be in there. You touched on earlier that you thought that we may not do it this year. My question was going to be, do you think we were going to be promoted? But you've obviously answered that. So do you think we'll fall away out of the top six, or make it to the playoffs and perhaps just fall at the final hurdle?
It depends. I think it's a 50-50 that we make the playoffs. But if we get Middlesbrough or Norwich over 2 legs, we won't go through. I can't see us going through. If we get Luton or Blackburn, then we've got a chance. And obviously at the final, it's a one-off game. Anyone can win.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I'm 50-50 that we're getting.
Well, I don't know if it's blind optimism. I think the team are doing very well at the moment. I think we'll make the top six personally. I'm not sure. As you say, it depends who you come up against. Will be dependent on if you can get to Wembley and perhaps go up. And just a final question on that: your thoughts? One season in the Premier League with Millwall. How do you think that would go?
Our first season in the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not too good.
Raise a bit of hell and then take the money and run.
Well, it depends. I mean, we'll have, what do you get for promotion? About 80 mil, wouldn't it? 80 million?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
If he makes some shrewd buys and strengthens the team, who knows? I mean, in '88 when we went up, no one gave us a chance, and we was top of the league at Christmas. So you never know.
No, and I think there's stories like Leicester who I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we could do what Leicester did, but you can have a go at the league and try and sort of attack it rather than just sort of stand there and defend.
Well, if you look at the Brentfords and the Fulhams, they're doing really well in there now.
Absolutely.
I know Bournemouth are struggling, but they could stay up.
It is possible. It is possible. Right. Well, that's been Who Are You for another episode with Chris. Chris, thank you very much for your time and for sharing your memories. Any final words from yourself?
Not really. Come on, your lines.
I can see. Have you got? Is your jumper that you're wearing? Does it say "No one likes us"?
No one likes us. Yeah.
I thought so, and that's probably a fitting way to end. No one likes us, and we don't care.
We don't care.
As I say, this has been Who Are You with Chris. As always, if anyone's listening to this, any other supporters that would like to come onto the show and do this, all you need to do, drop me a message. That's what Chris did. Found me on Twitter, and here we are. Or you can message the podcast. This will go out, as I say, on YouTube. It will also go out on Spotify. So please like and subscribe across those and all over social media. Again, this has been That Millwall Podcast. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch you on the next episode.